to whom it may concern. Why is it one can have lovely dreams and wake up in a bad mood? Possible answers: diamond mining in Africa, the age of terror, unknown source of scabies, neighbor running industrial vacuum cleaner over deck, warheads poised to ejaculate, premature master plans, hegemonic discourse, out of the broom closet into the Oval Office, deportations, hallucinations, machinations, combinations of 1968 now faded, segregations, simulations, marinations, acid flashbacks, inhalations, whales washed ashore, rare birds alerting humans, humidors, corridors, the fall of the Moors, the stewing of the Jews, always a feud over a small place. Who wants Siberia? Who wants Africa? Who wants cold space? Rhizomic cells, political spells. Someone took the handle off the scandal, and now the pump won't work. But enough about me. To whom it may concern rings conditional. It may not concern whom at all. And yet it may, rather agnostically, play a small role in whom's concerns. For a long time, I used to go to bed early. And now I is another, and the bed, well, the world's a bed of hot wars. One has a bad habit of not letting late risers sleep long enough, and one resents those dreams that live better than one does. All day I followed Pascal's advice. I did not leave my room and so did not get into trouble. I read, lunched, drank, slept, and the phone rang twice, the last call canceling that evening's assignation. I was relieved, yet the shrill ring broke a deep afternoon nap in which several pleasant dreams enacted themselves. Behind a saffron scrim, the hero lay prostrate at the feet of the heroine, in Indian fashion, wiping the dust from her bejeweled slippers. His crooked smile seemed involved in her destiny. The tableau shifted. After spilling red wine on a yellow shirt, I changed to red. "This glass leaks," I shrieked. Why would I want to go to the theater that evening when I had already been? Leaving one's room inevitably costs, and I was in no mood to spend. I only wanted to produce, and this need was so great that I thought I might bleed. A patchwork, a stick figure, a collage of the real, anything to make something out of pre-existing conditions. At the very least, more sleep. Whatever was in the pantry dinner, in truth, I had only words, but so many, so difficult to select. How lucky, though, since I needed so little to make. The best poem contains the smallest vocabulary. Distribution is an entirely different matter. There, beyond the olive orchard, stood a whitewashed house filled with large red pots. Some the woman had made, some from her grandmother's kitchen. Crocks that once held water, oil, syrup stood at attention on a brick hearth. When I entered the bathroom, a yellow dish filled me with joy. It held a bar of blue soap, like the covers of a book. Oh, to make something that might hold another. In the steep, winding Alpujarra, south of Granada, where the last Moorish king retreated with his imperious mother, ranches still keep earthen jugs of olive oil and well water in the cool of the kitchen under the blue tiled counters, safe and clean. The jugs are taller than a child just learned to walk, but quiet and immovable. No guest is refused. A walk along a narrow path revealed a pool of fallen mulberries floating on the surface of the soupy water. The dye would soon cover the diver, and there would be food too. This act would not be leaving the house too much. As for the grapevines in the near distance, red would have to wait until autumn harvest. Green, how I love you too. The subject. This is actually for someone in the audience, for E. For a long time, not only did I used to go to bed early, I went to bed early, and I drank wine out of a water glass. Until rather late in my cups and long past grand-mère, grand-père, mama, mamacita, papi, abuelita, and the rest had left me orphaned, suddenly I took to drinking wine, especially inexpensive white, in an elegant wine glass. Why? Because it tastes better. It was all due to E, not to the restaurants I used to frequent, no. They often use the improper glass, especially cafes and bistros in the town that never stops eating until it goes to bed early. San Francisco, or its neighboring studious Berkeley that eats while it studies its neighbors, and the tiny sushi portions on the plates the size of hubcaps, or the grand complexities of Oakland's Grand Avenue, which is a study in the sheer quantity of restaurants with fare from places as disparate as Rangoon and Athens, and as dissonant as McDonald's in Italy. No, these restaurants use at best sturdy restaurant stemware, and sometimes even cafe glasses, the Picardie French bistro small tumblers you may have at home that get cloudy and scratched over time, but almost never break. And if they do, they shatter into a million tiny crystals, which require a full vacuum cleaning, sweeping, and washing of your floor because their minuscule projectiles fly above and beyond any obstacles to their path. Go ahead, drop one onto the kitchen linoleum. Let one slip out of your hands and experience something akin to prehistoric humans witnessing the first starburst. Only this glass explodes below and hides in your dust bunnies. Everything is precisely itself in perfect quiddity, yet the mere sound of each thing reminds me of something else. Not metaphorically, but digressively. A word goes who knows where. The page on which it lands is one that Borges might have written, had it crossed his magnificent mind, or might have turned into one of his into his one novel, which might have gained him the Nobel Prize, with which he was never bestowed, despite the singular originality of his every sentence, every paragraph, every tale he ever wrote, then having gone completely blind, ever told. There are certain writers, and Borges is among them, from whom one can discover a substantial number of other great writers. Almost anyone who cherishes them may then generate their own list of greats, such as Roberto Bolaño, one of the greatest writers of my generation, whose unclassifiable novels and stories Borges now considers his legacy. Or vice versa. From Bolaño's recommendations, the reader's world explodes like a Picardie tumbler. All writers writing in the various Spanish, Catalan, English, Italian, French languages can be traced back to Cervantes' overcoat, if he wrote of one, but since not, of Don Quixote's hilarious, sometimes perilous, always nut bar on the road travels. Where is E in all of this? I do manage to return to that which has stimulated, or that which is approximate, though not necessarily causal to my own travels. Linearity is important to a glazier, and I am perfectly capable of Aristotelian logic when required. But nature does not require it and never demonstrates it, except as humans interpret the world outside their bodies, or the world including their bodies, upon which we place and view through a lens selected for close examination, Marxist theory, or gender theory, or post-colonial theory. Unfortunately, colonialism is still alive, active, and even accelerating in those locales where large numbers of persons from one place of origin are forced to move to and then slave in the service of the few, no matter the avowed constitution of their sovereignty. The body contains the history of all bodies that created it. E knows that. What's left of her kin have lived it thoroughly and relived it during decades of analysis and critical study. The wine glass into which she pours a perfect amount of a fine Sancerre is an inheritance. And I don't mean she was bequeathed a set of nice wine glasses by her aunt, who perhaps had better taste than her mother, who didn't drink at all but kept the good glassware, china, and silverware in what was called in her mother's day the break front, a special, likely mahogany glass sideboard only opened by permission of one of the parental unit for company or holidays or polishing. E, a friend from an exploded world, understands that one word, one glass, one thought contains multitudes, contains a history of the world that uses it. And if that world should part into further worlds and those further still, for Emily Dickinson, who is not the E in this writing, also understood that, wrote that, offered that to anyone, regardless of their drinking habits, kitchen equipment, and history. Digression is the staff of life, I tell those who complain, but if I fail to inform them in advance, they do fault me for the habit, which is like faulting someone for the texture of their hair, because this way of viewing and telling the world arrives in the DNA. Perhaps if science could locate the digressive gene precisely in the genetic map of 3 individuals from different histories, one of the 3 might cancel, or at least tone down, the unwanted genomic sequence that enables such straying. The same might be done with persons who meander from their commitments and cause inexorable damage to their beloveds. For surely the infidelity gene, which could possibly be the drift gene, or the I need to get out and conquer, though return to you gene, or I'm just like other men gene, or other women gene, or any gene that promotes certain behaviors that inadvertently devastate others, especially genes that promote violence and so forth, could be altered by a diversion from a 3rd genetic component. Oh yes, this would be a boon to human behavior and could conceivably put an end to war, don't you think? Is that a reason why some people don't like genome research? Imagine a population incapable and unwilling to engage in violence and genocide. Perhaps Stalin's grandchildren have secretly signed up for clinical trials, along with Mao's and Pol Pot's, the Hutus, and Donald Rumsfeld's. The conditional, the subjunctive, the passé composé versus the imperfect are the luxury of poets. The animals used to, and still do, go to bed early. They drink from the finest troughs. Thank you.